What's going on, everybody? I want to welcome to the show author Brian Ferguson, who wrote this awesome book on Verne Gagne. And of course, you've studied the history of professional wrestling well. Huge fan, part of the Wrestling Fans International Association on the board as well, which I was a part of at one point.
Mhm.
But, Brian, how the hell are you today?
I'm doing good, thanks, and thanks for having me on and talking about the book. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Me too. When this arrived in my mailbox, I kept checking my mailbox. When's this coming? When's this coming? 'Cause, as we were saying before we got on air, I was a huge
Yeah,
AWA fan growing up. I lived in Connecticut. I'd get it on ESPN. So obviously they very seldomly came to these parts, and I know they
yeah.
did at some point in the late 80s because of the Savoldis. They teamed up with the Savoldis to come out here. But let's talk about your fandom a little bit. When did you get into professional wrestling? How did you discover it?
Well, I'll tell you, Rick. I discovered it. I was very little. I don't remember this. My mom and my grandma would tell me when my grandfather was still alive. He would put me on his lap, and we would watch All Star Wrestling, Verne Gagne, AWA, and then as I got a little bit older, I just started watching it more because back then, this is 80s. It was still regional. Cable was just in its very early stages. So all we really got. I'm from Wisconsin. I was born and raised there originally, uh, and all we got was AWA All Star Wrestling every Sunday, and I would watch it before we went to church. Usually came on about 10 in the morning. Church is at 11. So I missed the last probably 10 minutes of the show, but that's how I got into it. And then as I got older, my uh, parents didn't really uh, care for me to watch it. So my grandma, sweet lady she was, would take me and we'd go watch it at her place. And then as I got older too, I'd still go to events. It was back then. They still promoted cards at small towns. I'm from a small town. Rice Lake, Wisconsin is where I was born and raised at. So they would come in every year around my birthday, November, and I would go to this event, and they would have at least two or three superstars from the AWA there, and it was phenomenal. And I just enjoyed it. I always loved Verne Gagne. It's later years in the late '80s when it started kind of going downhill. Unfortunately, the talent would be there for a few months, and they skip and go to the New York or Atlanta, which was unfortunate. But yeah, and then I just continued to do it. People, as I got older, they couldn't believe I was a wrestling fan. I guess I don't have the appearance, if you will, of a wrestling fan. I don't know what that means, but okay.
What
But yeah,
what is an
so
appearance of a wrestling fan? I mean, you go to a WWE show, I'm sure you can figure it out. But
yeah, right.
modern day, modern day.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
that was a joke, everybody. So don't take that too
yeah.
seriously. So you grew up in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, I visited there a couple times. I had family
Yeah.
my uncle was in the Navy, and then he lived. There's like an island out there, right? Madeline Island. Is that part of
It's
Wisconsin?
Manitowoc Island. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, my uncle lived there, and I visited there, and it was quite interesting. Actually, it's very small, very very
Yes.
small place, and there's
Yeah.
like you got to walk to the post office. Everything's within walking distance, it seems. So
Yes.
yeah,
And there's a bar on every corner of the and there. I mean, that's not being. I mean, I'm not being. I'm being serious. Most
yeah,
towns in Wisconsin, there is a bar. Even the little tiny dinky ones that you just blink your eye and you're through it. There's a bar there, guarantee it.
right.
Yeah.
So growing up as an AWA fan, who were some of your favorites that were around at the time? When was this? The 70s, late 80s, or early 80s? I don't know.
70s. Yeah, I was born in '70s, so late
Okay.
'70s, early '80s. Well, obviously Verne
Yep.
was one. Uh, I at the time that I look back, I would say Nick Bockwinkel, even though he was a big heel at that time in the
Right.
late '70s, early '80s. Couldn't stand the guy, but he would draw you in every week when he had his interviews with Bobby the Brain, Bobby the Weasel. You know, Um, I remember Jesse Ventura, Adrian Adonis, the East West Connection, when they were there. Greg Gagne and Brunzell, the High Flyers. Hogan when he was there. A lot of people don't realize that with Hogan, uh, Hogan before he was in the AWA, he was in all these other places, including the WWF,
Yep,
and
Memphis,
really didn't.
you did, yeah.
Yeah, Memphis. I mean,
Yep.
he did some stuff, but he really didn't get over until he got to the AWA. They
Yeah, I
knew
think
how to. They
sorry,
knew
go
how to
ahead.
get him over. No, I'm just saying
Yeah, I
they
think it
got
was
him over.
the combination of not only it was like perfect timing between that and then Rocky 3 as well, all happened
Right.
at the same time, and then it just kind of
Mm-hmm.
shot him up into superstardom. And then,
Yeah.
that's when, Vince was also cherry picking the talent at that time from each and every territory. And it's
Yeah.
unfortunate because it seemed like the AWA suffered the most out of everybody, and Vern kind of refusing to change with the times as well. On top of it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You're right. I think everything prior to when Vince Jr. took over was all every territory. It was a handshake
Right.
for their deal. It was not a contract, a written contract. It was a verbal and a handshake, and that's how it was. And unfortunately, when things started changing, uh, Vern. I always say this: if when you read the book, you'll realize if Vern would have applied the same thinking that he applied when he started his AWA in 1960, as far as all the politics and all the things that didn't go for him in the NWA in the 50s, if he would have applied that same logic, okay, maybe I should do this and should do that, change a little bit, I
Right.
think we would have still at least the big three. I don't
Yeah.
know about NWA, but I know like it would probably be WWE, AEW, and AWA. That's my
Yeah.
personal opinion. But what happens, what happens. So yeah,
When WCW closed, that was kind of heartbreaking for me in a way because I had been, a fan since
yeah,
probably like the late 80s of,
yeah,
when it was Jim Crockett Promotions and then, of
yeah,
course, got taken over by Turner. I never stopped watching WCW.
yeah,
WWF, I would stop watching from time to time. Now, not so
mhm,
much. But,
yeah,
it was just kind of heartbreaking. But at the time, I knew like the last couple of years were like really bad.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
but
It was.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Did you ever stop watching the AWA? Because I know a lot of people did probably like 89, 90 before they went out of business.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Well, I went in the army
Hmm.
in late '89, and so I really couldn't get it much anymore. I mean, it wasn't on ESPN anymore by then. They had pulled the plug on it,
Right.
and so yeah, I had stopped watching it. Still watched World Championship Wrestling out of Atlanta, and I watched WWF. And I will tell you, in the mid '90s, I actually quit watching both for a while. It was just getting too, I don't know, cartoonish,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like too
especially in
childlike.
WWE,
Yeah. Yeah.
WWF. It was for little kids and stuff, and that's fine if that was their what they were going for. Like you though, when Nitro, when WCW, when they started bringing in the talent and doing those deals with those WWE stars, WWF then, because their contract would run out, they wouldn't renew it, and they would pull them in,
Yeah.
and it worked, and that was the Monday Night Wars was great. I thought that was a good deal. Kind of went sour at the end, but that was a thing, and I think that worked and that made both promotions for those 83 weeks, as Bischoff says, compete against each other
Right.
and do that. So yeah,
But in that time period, and I calculated this back then, I know call me
Okay.
crazy. There's like 18 hours of wrestling television back in like 1999 between
Yeah.
any of the 2 3 hour programs that the major promotions are having, and then the hour that
Mhm.
2 hours a week that ECW had shortly. There was, TNN, and then
Yes.
and then and then any of the like B shows that WWF or WCW had, like Worldwide or WWF Superstar, stuff like that. So there was
Yeah.
like, but now, think about now. There's wrestling on
Yeah.
every night of the week between
Pretty much.
some sort of independent streaming service
Yep.
and cable, Netflix, all that stuff. It's kind of incredible that back then in 1999, I thought, wow, 18 hours. It's on, it was like on like 4 nights a week because
Yeah.
WCW Saturday Night was still on the air.
Yeah.
It kind of dwindled. But now it's just like it is impossible as a fan today to be able to keep up if
Hmm.
you watch everything, but you don't necessarily have to, because if you have a certain flavor, there's something
Hmm.
there for you. Like me, I'm not a deathmatch guy. I'm not a comedy guy. A lot of modern stuff I'm not particularly a fan of. I really, really like old school traditional
Yeah.
style of professional
Yeah.
wrestling. That's why I continue to watch like Herb Simmons' program each and every week. Uh,
SACW. Yeah. Great
yeah,
show.
it's a great show. One of these days, I
It
hope to get
is.
out there
Yeah.
on a vacation or something, because
Yeah.
I've had Herb on the show before, and he's a great
Yeah.
guy to talk
Fantastic
to.
man.
Yeah,
Very good guy. Very good guy.
yeah. So,
Uh,
is there anything that you keep up with today?
sure. I keep, well, SICW like yourself. They're
Yeah.
having, I don't know when this is dropping, but they have this fan fest coming up this coming the weekend, the 7th
Yep.
or the 16th and 17th of May. And I usually go to those, but unfortunately this year I am full time RVing with my wife and I, and we are actually in Savannah, Georgia right now. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, thanks. And so we're we lived in Missouri for years, and
Hmm.
I would always drive up to St. Louis for Herb's event. And but this year we're too far away to do that. But I do that. I watch some AEW.
Okay.
I watch some of that now, and I watch some WWE Netflix. Now I'll tell you what I don't care for, and you might be the same way, Rick. Uh, is that there's so much talking in the ring that, and I'm not talking about talking and then while they're wrestling or whatever. I'm talking about these interviews that last 20 minutes. And I get you got to do an angle, but
Hmm.
it's like in the old days, your angle was out of the ring. You did your 2 minute interview with Marty O'Neill, Gene Okerlund, Roger Kent, or McMahon even back in the day, or Tony Schiavone. Those guys. It was 2 minutes, and then you went to the ring, and ding ding, they had a match. Even if it was a superstar against a jobber, whatever. It was very little speaking, or a lot less speaking, more action.
Hmm.
And that to me today is kind of the missing component. But there's also a big generational gap between myself and a 25-year-old
Yes.
been watching it since he was a kid. That's all they
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
is they
Um,
talk for 20 minutes.
if you watched, did you watch WrestleMania this year? I know we're so,
I did.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we're like weeks past that,
Yeah.
and every intro in between match intro, between the talking, the introductions, etc., it was about 20 to 30 minutes
Yeah.
before they got, and then they made it a 5 hour show each night.
Mm-hmm.
With very little few matches, and it's just like, man, like the introductions, it's like they're putting an art, and I get it. I get the, all about they want to put this art, and people do go all out for WrestleMania, etc., etc. But I am tuning in to watch what's happening in the ring. I'm not just some nerd, like, like guy that's like
Yeah.
just watches online. I watch wrestling a lot. I do
Yeah.
a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't want to just watch these introductions for a half an hour,
Right.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it's like it's just as bad on like Monday or Friday night where they come out and talk for 20 minutes before they have a match. Back when we were growing up, they do the introduction, commercial break, come back, the first match was in the ring. And that was
Yeah.
it. And that's the days that I miss. Like I'm more of a traditional um style when it comes to it. I still continue to watch the NWA. I don't know how
Yeah.
great it is. Uh, I always
Yeah,
I
no,
do
I'm with you. Yeah,
yeah, I watch it each and every week. I do a podcast
yeah,
about it each and every week. I don't always say the
yeah,
greatest things about it, but that Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, I continue to watch that,
yeah.
which I really, really like that show.
Hmm.
Now they're coming to New York actually, which is
Oh, okay.
yeah, the venue that they're going to be at in New York is about an hour and a half from my house in Connecticut. My son goes to college up there, so I'm going to make
Oh,
it
wow. Okay.
that's an excuse to go up there right away. And
There you go. That's right. Yeah,
so I'll be up there. That's coming
yeah,
up this fall, so I'm really excited
yeah,
about that. Yeah.
yeah. I also watch. You said championship. I watch David Marquez's
Yeah.
champion. I also watch Dustin Starr's
Memphis.
Memphis.
Yep. Yeah.
Championship wrestling from Memphis, and that's another to me under appreciated show. It's like you said. It doesn't have a lot of the eye candy, and I think if people would watch that more. Uh, you pay, like you said, WrestleMania. Okay, those
Yeah.
tickets were thousands of dollars. They're like Super Bowl level.
Yeah.
Where
It's
for
ridiculous. Yeah.
and what are you getting for it? I mean, at
You
least in
could.
the Super Bowl, right? You're seeing
Yeah.
action for 4 quarters, right? You're not. There's some gaps, for commercials and stuff, but I mean, there's not no 20-minute gap for talking. There's a halftime show. Okay, that's
Right.
15 minutes, right? Okay, but in wrestling today, especially in AEW and WWE, you've got all this introduction talk that's 10 minutes, and then that's just the music when they come out.
Yeah.
And then they got to introduce them. That's another 5 minutes. And then you might get the match that's 10. Now, I will tell you we talked about WrestleMania, and I'm going to tell you, then we can swing back to whatever you want. But
Sure.
that just John Cena angle, I'm not buying it. It's a hot mess to me. It's like it's not. I don't feel it. I feel like it's so fake. It's not even funny. That because Cena has been such a baby face for so many years, done all these
Hmm.
great things for kids and stuff, and all of a sudden you're going to tell me that he's going to kick Cody Rhodes in the groin, and it just seemed fake. I mean, the last heel turn that I can remember, and I'll let you talk to your point.
Sure.
The
Sure.
best one I've seen was Hogan when he joined the NWO. That
Okay.
that was real. I mean, to me, it felt real. It
Yeah.
felt genuine to me.
The thing with Cena is it's just I was kind of excited the night that it happened, only because I think I predicted it. Okay.
Yeah,
Then he came out. He didn't come out on Monday night. Okay, that's
right.
ridiculous. He comes back the following week, or maybe it was 2 weeks later. He cuts this promo, and it's the longest, boringest promo. Boringest isn't even a
Yes.
word, but it's the most boring promo you could imagine. And it's just like
Yeah.
it's not convincing. And ever since
You're
then,
right.
every match he's had is just slow as dirt. Like it's not
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. You're right. No, and you're right. The promo about being, giving everything and everybody being selfish. I mean, it's not selling. I don't. Probably most people don't buy it. I know they don't, but WWE, whoever's this writers are
Yeah.
pushing this, and it's just not. It's crap
And
to
compared
me.
to last year's WrestleMania, I thought was amazing. I thought it was a really good
Yeah,
show put
yeah,
together for both nights. Me and Bob Smith did a podcast about it, raving about how good it was. And this year, I was on Twitter the whole time, just knocking it, making fun of it. I couldn't stand the New Day winning the tag. It's just like, who even
yeah.
cared about that happening? And Jimmy Uso, just a guy that yells yeet, winning the world title.
I know. Gunther was a great champion.
He was. And I think
Gunther
that,
was believable.
yeah.
Gunther, his interview skills aren't the greatest, or his mic
Yeah.
skills. If he had a good manager, that could be remedied. But his ability in the ring and his toughness, I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Jimmy Uso, the Yeet.
I
I'm
think that
with you.
Gunther could talk to a certain level. Like I think what he does fits the
Yeah,
character. Because he can be a
yeah,
wise ass at times too, and it comes out. like, oh shit, like it kind of catches you off guard a little bit. It's like some of the comebacks he has,
Yeah.
or some of the cuts that he
Yeah.
has, some of the guys. So it ends up being
Yeah.
more entertaining than some people realize. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that he was a great champion. He's a very old school style professional wrestler, and probably
Yeah.
the best in the game right now. Personal opinion.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. Gunther, especially since he started there when he was Walter, and
Yep.
his transformation of his physique and how, I mean, he was a big
Oh,
fella.
he
He
was.
was a big
Yeah.
fella before, and
Yeah.
now, I mean, he's still a big guy, but tall, but he's a lot leaner and a lot faster and stronger. And you're right. He was a great intercontinental champion when he was intercontinental champion, and he was a great world champion. I think I'm going to give it. I hope they're smart enough to do this. The next pay per view,
Hmm.
uh, Uso will have a
Yep.
rematch with Gunther, and he'll get the belt back. I mean, that's give Jimmy Uso his or Jay
Or
Uso,
Jey Uso. Yeah. Yeah.
Jay, sorry,
That's a
Jimmy or Jay, whoever it was, the Yeet guy. I think it's Jay, isn't it? Main event Jay Uso is his
yeah.
name.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, sorry, I get it mixed up. But give him his little couple months. It's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like a Kofi Kingston run. You remember that a few
Yep.
years
I
ago
was
with
there for
when
that. Yeah. I was there.
okay,
Yeah.
I I mean, Brock Lesnar destroyed the man after
Yes.
the rematch. I mean, it was awful. I mean,
Mm.
it was hard to even watch because he was just throwing him around like a rag doll,
Yeah.
and
It lasted like 30 seconds, I think, if I
yeah,
remember correctly. Yeah.
it was yeah, and so I hope that's what they do. And same with the tag titles. Give it to you know
Anybody?
the War Raider,
Yeah.
whatever
War
that War
Raiders.
Raiders.
Yeah.
They weren't
Yeah.
bad, but
No,
I mean,
they've
I
been
think
they've brought him in on fire on times, and then they just kind of lingered, and then they brought him all of a sudden they push him for the titles, and they linger. It doesn't. It's inconsistent what they've done with the War Raiders, really, over the last like I don't know 5 or so years
yeah,
that they've been part of that company.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your book. All right.
Okay. Yes, please. I love it.
You said you were a huge, yeah. Well,
There it
see, I
is.
got it right here, holding it up right
You
in front of the
do. And
camera.
there's the back. Yeah.
Back. This is a self-published book, if I'm from the way I'm looking
It
at it.
is. It
Yeah.
is. I had a publishing firm put it out per se,
Okay.
but it is basically self-published. I mean, uh, they did some corrections on it and stuff.
Right.
But they put it out. Yes, it's self-published on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo
Hmm.
Rakuten, and Lulu Press. But it is. It took me 2 years to write the book. I started it in late 2022, early 2023.
Okay.
Uh, did multiple interviews with family members, Fern's children,
Hmm.
uh, and I did a lot of research through the University of Minnesota because that's where he was a huge star there. I mean, he was a four-time Big Nine, now known as Big Ten wrestling champion. Uh, he was a excellent football player. He played offensive end on both the left and right side of the line. He was drafted by both the Cleveland Browns and Chicago Bears in
Well,
1947. Unheard of, right? And he guess what's
yeah.
even this? I'll give away a little piece in the book. He didn't couldn't play college ball in the fall of 1947 for the year because his academically ineligible and he was still drafted.
There's a good piece of trivia right there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
So he was just an incredible athlete. Go ahead and fire away. I don't want to take all the thunder, so go ahead.
No, I mean, what was it like? Like you talked to Greg, and obviously he had daughters, correct? If I remember
He
correctly.
has actually three daughters.
Three.
Vern
One of
did.
them was one of them a ring announcer for AWA, if I remember, in the 80s.
Donna,
Donna, right.
Donna,
Okay.
Donna was a ring announcer. Kathy worked a little more behind the scenes, and Beth, the middle sister,
Hmm.
didn't have anything to do with wrestling or nothing. And she chose not to be a part. of the process of the book, which I totally respected. I said, okay, no problem. I
Hmm.
only put her in there a few times when she was born and a couple of events. Other than that, I respected her and her family's wishes of leaving her out, and I was like, okay. But yeah, it was that, and I did a lot of newspapers were a big thing back in the 50s and 60s.
Right. Yeah.
Big, huge part of everyday life and media.
Yep.
Television was in its very infancy. I mean, radio was still around. Radio was hopping,
I
but
don't know. I don't know for how much longer radio will be. It's all Sirius XM and podcasting, YouTube,
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that. Internet radio is a thing, but God knows how long that'll last though too. But
right,
a lot of like storefronts use like a lot of internet radio and
right.
stuff like that. Yeah.
But I did a lot of research. It was just a family, but I read thousands of newspaper articles on
Jeez.
Verne, and there was stuff I would find out that the family didn't even know because I'd ask them, "Hey, is this true?" Like they didn't know he was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. They had no idea. They knew
Wow.
about the Bears, but they never knew about the Browns. Uh, just about some of his Olympic stories, I would find out and ask them, and they were like, "Oh, that really?" And I said, "Yeah, it's in this newspaper article. I'm assuming it's true, from London." But yeah, and you just find out little things, and a lot of the politics of the NWA in the 50s, it's in there. Why they wouldn't make him world champion.
The NWO was still in its infancy at the time. They had only been around a couple of years as a governing
Right.
body. Yep.
Verne started wrestling in 1949. So the NWA
Okay.
had been around about a year
Right.
as a organization.
Right.
But those promoters have been around for 20, 30 years promoting. Now, Kohler, Fred Kohler out of Chicago was a big Verne pusher, and he wanted him to be champion. And but the Sam Mushnick and Luthez were like, no, I think they were, my opinion, and from what I've been reading, is they were afraid he would be bigger than Thez.
Hmm.
And Thez still wanted to come back probably a little later, regain the title. And they thought that he wouldn't have the juice per se to outdo Gagne. That's a personal opinion.
I mean,
No
it makes sense
disrespect.
if you think about it. Yeah.
It does no disrespect to Luthez. His wife is a sweetheart, Charlie Thez. I met her last year. Sweetheart of a lady. But that's my personal opinion. Now, they did not actually like each other for years until I want to say like the late 70s. They finally buried the hatchet with each other, became friends, did events together. They were inducted in the NW or WCW Hall of Fame in '93, things like
Hmm.
that. But Verne, when he did the AWA with Wally Carbo, it was a big deal. The NWA, the only reason why they allowed it is because they had just got done with being under investigation by the FBI for monopolizing, uh, kicking everybody that wasn't part of the NWA. They were taken over, or they'd outlaw territories, they called them back then.
Right. Yep.
But they got investigated. They made a deal about it with the FBI and the Department of Justice, and so they said, "Okay, Verne, you can have Minneapolis." That he bought it and partnered with Wally. I think they didn't really figure it'd last more than like 3 or 4 years. But see, Verne was not very in school, not very academically inclined to do schoolwork and apply himself academically.
Right.
However, business wise, he was very intelligent, and he watched and observed how all these other people were doing business and applied those fundamentals when he did the AWA, and it was successful. For 25 of the 31 years it was in business, it was very successful.
Right.
And he just had, especially from about 79 to 83, one, he was the largest promotion territory in the country at that time. And he had the most talent. And that's because everybody wanted to be on TV and they got paid well by Verne. Verne was paid out very well. And he gave people time off for their family and stuff. He was a very family oriented man. And that's why people like working for him. Now, they didn't always agree with how he ran the ring or some of their angles and stuff, the in-ring business, but he was the boss and it was successful, so they couldn't really argue with it.
Yeah.
He also one more thing. He also trained over
Sure.
144 wrestlers.
Yeah, I know some of them, not all of them,
Yeah,
but
I'll just the
Steamboat.
class of
Yeah.
'72 is the
Yep.
most famous with Flair, Iron Sheik, uh, Greg Gagne, Brunzell, Bob
Hmm.
Bruggers, Ken Patera, Ric Flair. He's also trained Steamboat, Sergeant Slaughter, the Andersons, all the Andersons, Ole, uh, Gene, and Lars, the original Anderson brothers, the original three,
Okay.
the Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
Right.
Baron von Raschke. Uh, I could go on. Those are just some of the well-knowners that have done, but he did 144, around 144. I know it's 144 or more for sure.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah, and all of them, 99% of them went on to main event status, successful. So
That's pretty impressive.
yeah, very impressive.
Something you said a couple minutes ago. You said mentioned
Mm,
that ran the largest territory.
yep.
Now I heard Greg reference that too, and I think was it Tales from the Territories on Vice about 2 years
Yeah.
ago. Now I
Yeah.
know it was like Minnesota, Wisconsin, was it Nevada and parts of California, correct?
He had yes, and he had Winnipeg
Okay.
up in Canada. He had North and South Dakota. He had Salt Lake City, Utah, and like you said, California, the San Francisco, Sacramento, Northern California area. He had Nevada, Vegas, Las Vegas, Reno.
Right.
He and he just kind of he what they did is they always made these deals back then. You don't cross into another
Right.
guy's territory. Well, what he would do is if they were like struggling or wanting to sell, okay, they would call him or probably or he'd call them, whatever, and he'd say, okay, I'll buy your territory, but I want all the rights and all that stuff, the TV rights, and same thing back then. It was all a handshake. Even the TV rights deals were all,
Jeez.
yeah, they were all. There was no paper, and that's what the downfall was, part of it. But yeah, so he would get all these things when he bought these territories, but he would keep the guys. And the good thing back then, Rick, was if you got stale in a like Verne, if you were in Salt Lake City and you were there a year and a half, 18 months, 2 years, you started getting kind of stale, they kind of like, okay, you could go to Minneapolis
Right.
and nobody would know the difference because it wasn't Salt Lake City wasn't televised in Minneapolis back then. So he
Yeah.
could go to Minneapolis and work a new gig and become superstar. So
Yeah, a lot of television was syndicated then, so they wouldn't,
right,
the
yeah,
syndicated markets or regional markets. It
right,
wasn't like today, kids, where it was all cable TV, and you can see it 24/7 or on demand, and
yeah, yeah,
so it was,
yeah,
and I kind of miss days like that. You know what I mean? Like regional wrestling programs, but. I guess going back to what we were talking about earlier, we're kind of getting that feel with some of the stuff we watch, only it's on YouTube. Guys like, Herb Simmons or David Marquez's organizations. It's
yeah,
all, those are regional promotions for the most part, but some of the
yeah,
talent in those promotions is just,
yeah,
gotta
incredible,
tell you. Yeah. Oh, incredible. Yeah.
incredible. SICW. Herb, he's been doing this for over 50 years. I think this is his 51st year doing this, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah.
And doing it for 50 years, staying in business for 50 years as a St. Louis, Eastern Southern Illinois
Yeah.
hub area, and being able to do that. says a lot.
Yeah.
And he knows a lot of people too. So
Yeah, he knows a lot of people. I've conversed with him. I met
yeah,
him through somebody else, and some of the people that he has on his show. Now, if he doesn't have brand new, now this is my favorite part of his television show. If he doesn't have brand new matches to show, he shows matches from Wrestling at the Chase because he owns
Chase.
the tape library of
Yep.
all that stuff, and it's kind of amazing because I think it was one day I turned on the show and it was like Harley Race and David Von Erich maybe
Yeah,
at one
probably.
point. Yeah, and I was just like, oh wow, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
I'm a huge history nerd when it comes to professional wrestling. I love
yeah,
learning about the stuff prior to the 80s,
yeah,
70s, 80s, and
yeah,
there's still stuff from my era in the 1980s that I'm discovering, and I absolutely love it.
yeah. No, I'm with you. So I do the same thing. I watch Herb's stuff and Wrestling at the Chase events. It's great. But you're right. You get on YouTube, and that's the great thing about YouTube. You can go on there and probably find a match that you've never seen
Yeah.
especially from the 50s and 60s. There's a Chicago Archives YouTube channel that has
Okay.
all these matches with Ray Davis was the commentator, and he would call these matches every week out of the amphitheater. And there's the who's who in that era. There, Thez, Gagne, Wilbur Schneider, Antonio Rocco, Dominique DeNucci. I mean, you name them,
Yeah.
they were there, and it's awesome. So
Have Have
yeah,
you ever seen the Armstrong Alley YouTube channel on
I have not.
okay. Look it
I'll have
up.
to check it
The
out.
guy, the uploader is he goes by the name Chris P. Lettuce. Okay. You can find him on Twitter by that name.
Okay,
He uploads some obscure, rare, hard to find territories from, the 70s and 80s, even into the, you know, early 90s and such stuff that
yeah,
was like when the territories were kind of dying. He has lots of weird Chicago era, like wrestling from like the late 80s, early 90s, like
okay,
Chicago Championship Wrestling or something like that. I spent a couple
yeah,
hours watching that a few weeks ago. It's a very interesting channel, and as a like an older historian territory type guy, like historian, I
yeah.
think that you would really, really like that.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna check it out definitely. So
Oh yeah,
like
I've
you
been
said,
watching it for about a year now, and
yeah,
it's just an amazing, it's an amazing channel to discover. And it seems like he hasn't uploaded in a little while, but
yeah.
every now and again he comes back after, disappearing for a little while.
Hopefully, somebody ain't going after him for uploading content.
I think none of this stuff, I think, is owned by the big guys that I've
Okay,
witnessed. You know what I mean? So that's the fun part
that's
about it.
okay because that's
Yeah,
the bad thing is some guys upload stuff and then they get hammered by the big guys,
yeah.
and saying that's copyrighted. We own that. You can't upload that, even
Well,
though he probably recorded it 40 years ago on a VCR tape. For those that don't know VCR, it's a video cassette recorder. That's
before
you
on
know,
demand, before
yeah.
DVDs, we
So
had
yeah,
VCRs. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. So that's good to know, though. I'll check it
Yeah.
out definitely.
And I think that's the reason why they ended up starting the WCW channel was because the people were just uploading episodes of things that were not on Peacock, say per se,
Yeah,
like the syndicated shows like Pro, Worldwide, stuff like that,
yeah,
and
yeah,
some of the pay-per-views that aren't even available up there. So
yeah. That's the thing I don't like about. I'm glad you brought that up with the Peacock WWE. They really don't have any good. I shouldn't say good content of the AWA, and they have a few things, but I know, I guarantee you, I know they have a lot of that television content from the early 80s and late 70s that they could put on there that would really have fans understand and realize how big the AWA was and how Verne Gagne made it from just a little Minneapolis territory into at one time the biggest promotion territory in the United States. So I wish they would do that. If anybody's listening from WWE, please put a bug in Hunter Paul Levesque's ear and tell him to put that stuff on there.
My other thing with that is they also own like the rights to world class. They have everything from 1983 to
Yeah.
1988 up there, but they don't have some of the other like anything prior to that when it was NWA big time wrestling. They don't have they own the rights to Smoky Mountain. None of that stuff. There's like
Okay.
5 episodes. They own I believe they bought the Southwest library like years ago and have not uploaded a single bit of it. And when I found out that they bought that, and that's what the WWE network was actually still around when I heard that, like in its infancy, I was like, oh, this is great. Never saw anything. And it's just kind of upsetting because there's all these like people that
I
just
know.
love classic historic wrestling. And now
Yeah.
Peacock or WWE, because of their Peacock, and now they're doing Netflix, and I think that it seems like they're moving towards YouTube for a lot of it as well with the WCW channel. It's like they're not
Yeah.
necessarily caring as much about the fans of the old school as much unless they're just uploading the WCW because that's what a lot of the people seem to remember. But it's like guys like you and me, Brad Drake, all those guys, they just want to watch
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
classic content from the 70s and 80s.
I guess we're dinosaurs and we're not the people that are going to spend the big bucks on spending $300 at a WWE event, buying the ticket, which is probably at least $70, and then a T-shirt
Oof.
for 40, and then your food and stuff. So you're going to spend two, three
Yeah.
hundred just to
You
get
look,
there.
you're looking to spend about 400 or 500. Granted, if you're bringing, the wife and
Yeah.
kid
Oh
or what
yeah.
have you, you know what I mean?
I was just saying, just you. Yeah.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah,
bringing the family, you're going to be paying big bucks, and
yeah.
that's what I want to, if I can, I want to. You talk about indies, SICW and David Marquez Championship Wrestling. Those guys in mid states. There's a one mid states wrestling out of Harrison, Arkansas, by Space
Yep.
Cowboy Jason Joe. Tickets, a VIP ticket, $25. That's where you're in the front row, the front 2 rows, right?
Hmm.
You're at $25. Okay, the lowest ticket I think is I think 15, 10 or 15. I don't remember, but I've
Hmm.
been to these events. SICW, same thing. Okay, you go in there, they don't push merch on you. You just go up, you can go talk to these guys. They'll talk with you. You could take a selfie with them. They're not going to charge you for it to take a picture with them. And then that interests me. Okay, I'm going to buy one of your pictures. Or I'm going to buy a t-shirt. If I buy a picture, hey, would you mind signing it? Yep. No additional charge for them to sign it. That's
Hmm.
what I like. And I know they're not, way up here, but they're working their way up there. And I appreciate the fact that a lot of these promoters don't, they'll tell you, they tell them, you don't force or try to sell your merch. You just stand there, talk to your fans. They'll buy it if they want it. They'll take a picture of
Hmm.
you if they want to, this and that. And it works. It's a good formula. And they don't charge an arm and a leg for a t-shirt. You're like $20 for a t-shirt or something.
Yeah, yeah. It all,
Pictures like 10,
yeah, I usually go to a lot of independents here in Connecticut,
yeah,
Massachusetts, and sometimes New York, but not as much. But it's like a lot of guys just sitting there. And if it's somebody that I really like a lot, or if I'm kind of friendly with them, I'm paying for, I'll buy
yeah,
that shirt.
yeah.
I have a closet full of shirts I don't wear from guys that I
Yeah,
bought shirts
me
of.
too.
So,
I do
so
too.
pictures I definitely buy. I have a box of pictures that eventually this wall back here is just going to be decorated. It's all a matter of
Yeah,
time. So.
yeah, I'm with you. I when I had we lived in our duplex, I had a nice wall of things, and but now RVing, it's just there's no room, and you got to go with you got. I'm gonna get a green screen here
Yeah.
soon, and I have a picture of my old room I could put on the back, kind of like what you're doing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna try that and see if that works. And yeah, so
Let's see. You're still doing bumps and thumps?
I am periodically. I don't do it
Periodic.
as much as I used to. I just did one. It came out. Today is the 12th. It just came out today. It's with Richard Vicek and Stephen Verrier. They wrote the book on Wilbur Schneider, the world's most scientific wrestler. I did an
Okay.
interview with them, and it's I've gonna order the book. I haven't ordered yet, but another person like Verne, you know, who has not gotten the recognition that
Hmm.
they deserve. And Wilbur was a huge draw in the 50s and 60s and early
Right.
70s. And he promoted with Dick the Bruiser in Indianapolis for a number of years. And it's a great interview. Um, if people have time, watch it. I think it's pretty good, and or listen to it. It's on YouTube and all the other outlets of audio. So, like you get to it when you can. Working and with
Yeah.
me RVing, it's a little more challenging to get an internet connection when you're
Right.
on the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to guys like and promoting this book. And the book, I will say this: the book is the hard copy like this is $20 on Amazon. Yeah, Vern, it's $20. If you have an ebook or a Kindle or a Nook, as they have at Barnes and Noble, it's $7.99.
Can't go wrong there. And by the way, physical media is not dead, so I'd really love for y'all to go out and buy the physical book.
Yes,
It'd be yeah,
yes,
I bought mine. I'm a physical media type person still, even though
me
I
too.
belong to 18 different freaking streaming services. I don't know. But mostly my wife's fault. But you know,
There,
um
there you
but
go.
yeah, I still buy plenty of books. I just saw two books that came out recently that I need to buy as well. Bob Smith
Yeah.
had posted both of them on his page. Just saw somebody wrote a book on hot stuff, Eddie Gilbert, which I'm just like, geez. I said, oh man,
Okay.
I need to get this. And this week I'm probably going to order that.
Yes.
Then I saw Barry Horowitz put out a book. Barry Horowitz was one of the first interviews I ever did in
Okay.
podcasting, and I got to say, man, great guy. I've had a chance to meet him numerous times after that, and
Mhm.
that's just he has a very interesting career, so I'd really like to read that book as well. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
I haven't
yeah,
read that one, or I didn't know about hot stuff, so I'm gonna look that up. But I am gonna get the Wilbur Schneider book.
that I want to get too.
Uh,
So there's
yeah.
maybe this week when I'm going to place a huge
Yeah.
order with Amazon. So,
I want to tell you too. We were talking about Herb earlier. Herb is, there's a event in July, the George Tragos Luthez Hall of Fame
yep.
in Waterloo. The weekend of the 18th, 19th, and 20th of July, I believe it is.
Okay.
Herb is been designated his promotion to run the wrestling show during at Saturday night, I believe it is. And I'm telling you, if you can get to Waterloo, I'm going to that. We planned that in our trip. We're going to
Okay.
go to Waterloo, my wife and I, and we are going to watch, and it's going to be great. There is a bunch of guys that are going to be there this year. I know Medusa, uh, Deb Michelli, she's going to be there.
Yep.
She's getting an award. Uh, I know Eric Bischoff, Sergeant Slaughter. Uh, there's go look it up on
Yeah,
Facebook. They have a
I,
Facebook page.
I was going to look into that last night, actually. I'm glad you told me. This
Yeah.
July actually is a very busy month. I got two daughters that are getting married in the over the summer
Oh
this year. So
man, you are busy.
yeah, so between that and then my niece in August, we're going to be running
Okay.
around like crazy. However,
Yeah.
I may be able to make that because I was looking at that. I'm looking into the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame for October, which is about three
Okay.
hours from me.
Okay.
Trish Stratus is getting inducted this year.
Yeah.
She's the guest of honor, from what and
Okay.
Seth Turner does a really great job of running that organization, and I've actually got a chance to meet him at the NWA 76th anniversary last summer. Great guy, great
Okay.
conversation, and yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to. There's a lot of great wrestling stuff coming up.
There is. There
I don't know
is.
how much I'm going to be able to fit into my schedule this year as far as like Hall of
Yeah.
Fames and such. I'm going to the end.
Yeah.
I'm going to the Crockett Cup this weekend in Philadelphia.
Oh, all
So,
right.
me and my son are driving down there. It's a 3-hour drive from where we live, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward
What's
to
your
that.
prediction for the Crockett Cup?
I have no idea. I have no
No?
idea because
Okay.
as long as it's
I
not the
know
slime, as long as it's not the slime balls, all right? So,
I know Knox and Murdoch won it last year.
yeah.
Uh, I would like to see the the one that Aaron Stevens that he
Oh,
manages.
blunt force trauma.
Blunt
Yeah.
force trauma. They
Yep.
kind of remind me of, remember Doom?
Yep.
with
Butch Reed, Ron
Simmons.
Simmons. Yeah.
Yeah, and uh, what's his name? The Teddy Long. Teddy
Teddy
Long.
Long.
He
Yep.
was,
He managed that.
and
He
then
was,
it was woman before. Yeah, but Teddy Long.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was a great tag team. But yeah, I mean, I would love to go do that too, but I just don't have like you. Time is limited. Two daughters getting married in a month. Boy, you. Whew,
I'm
I'm
going to
sure
be
that's a few
busy.
bucks for
Yeah.
you too.
Oh gosh, yes, yes. My wife's been killing it. We've been killing it. We're organizing everything. So, keep him busy. Like I said, keep him busy. On top of my job,
Uh,
my full-time job as well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, good for you. That's great.
Thank you. Well, Brian, I want to thank you. Is there anything else you want to throw out there today?
I just want to say again, the book Verne Inside Outside the Ropes, 1999, online, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, Rakuten, Lulu Press, 7.99 for the ebook. And I want to, you talked about the WFIA earlier, Wrestling
Yes.
Fans International Association. We are starting. We just put out a biannual uh, magazine newsletter. Basically, it's about 20 pages. However, you have to be a member. And yes, it does cost to be a member now because we have to be able, we're planning on a convention next year in St. Louis.
Okay.
And in order to have that convention to be successful, we need to raise money and members. It's kind of it's $50, but that's for a full calendar year. That's from like March 1st or like let's say June 1st of this coming year of 2025 to June 1st of 2026. You'll get access to this. We're going to start doing more of these newsletters again online, where they're a magazine flip. So they're not
Okay.
just not just a PDF file where you scroll up and down. It's going to be actually a magazine flip.
Right.
We're trying to get more people in the indie circuit, like yourself, to submit arena reports. If you go to an event, tell us about it. Okay, who won, who's the champion, this and that. If you want to write an article, a short article on a wrestler, send it to me. All that information is on the website, the WFIA.org. We're really trying to get this kicked off. Rick, you were an original member, and I know you got busy with
Yeah,
stuff, and
my
that's life.
life
And then
took,
that
yeah,
I
it took a
know
turn.
it
Yeah.
happens, and I'm fortunate for my age. I'm fully retired. I'm very fortunate. I have a great wife that knows how to manage money, thank goodness, and we're able to do the things that we can do. All of our kids are grown. We've got 5 grandkids, 4 we're going to go see here in a couple weeks, and yeah. So, but if you can join, please do. They'll be at FanFest too. We got 2 of our board members that'll be at FanFest in St. Louis. They'll have a table there. Go check it out. Go talk to them. They'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions, give you the information. I know they're going to have some t-shirts, mugs, things like that. If you become a member, you probably get a t-shirt and a mug. I know they're going to have this book there.
Nice.
And so it'll be $20. And if you're in Waterloo when I'm there and you see me, come up to me, talk to me. Rick, if you're there, especially anybody, if you
I'm
know,
trying. Trying.
come
Yeah.
talk to me. And if you have my book, I will sign it, no problem, no charge. I'm not going to charge you a bunch of cash to sign the book. I will just sign it right there for you, no problem. And yeah, I hope you can come, Rick, you and your wife, or just you, whatever. Uh, yeah, my wife and I went last year. We absolutely loved it. She's not a big, huge wrestling fan, but she actually really enjoyed
Mine either.
Waterloo.
Yeah.
But she enjoyed
Yeah.
the atmosphere because it's very family oriented. It's
Right.
not. It's not. And they respect the spouses and
Hmm.
everything. So I think she'll have a good time at it. So there's my plug.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming by, and hopefully, we'll have to have you back at some point.
Oh, I'd love to be on, and I'm gonna have to have you on my podcast and talk about your stories and
Yeah.
your coming events and stuff. So,
Anytime.
all right, Rick, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. And if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, you better.